In my world, I love to have my scarf for my neck, because they did some tests on military people that were all naked in one group, except for their necks, their heads, their hands, and their feet, and their waist, and they had nice down booties and everything. And then the other group had nice parkas and everything, but they had tennis shoes and cotton socks and bareheaded and barehanded. And then the other group was in Levi's and white t-shirts and cotton tennis shoes. Who lasted the longest in the stand out in the snow cold test? The naked people. The naked people whose heads, hands, necks, waist, and feet were warm. Pretty cool, huh? So I've got this sleeping system that says I want to have wool underpants, scarf around my waist that's made out of wool, llama hair hat, and my socks that I never walk in, I just sleep in them, right? So I've got to have my sleepy socks, and then I can have tire sandals for the day or whatever. So this has all got to go in. But try to make some kind of organized pile. And let's say that after everything, I also decided I was going to keep my coat for some reason inside my gear. Or if I don't have a coat, there's my cheater Mexican coat that does a couple of things besides be a coat, right? So let's put that in there just for fun. Gloves. What does this do for you if you don't have your machete or your axe?
Tear stuff out.
You can get out there and be confident when you're ripping stuff down that you're not shredding the skin on the palms of your hands and your fingers. And so we call this our soft axe. So I like to have a pair of gloves so I can get confident and get busy and not rip my skin. I got my piece of salt that I broke off of a cowlick, right? So I got my salt, my gloves. I almost all my life have had a machete. So this is really weird. But they wouldn't let me on the plane with it, so wool undies that I got from Zeke Sanchez. Add to the pile. Metal cup, I kind of want to hook on the outside of my pack, and I want to have my machete on the outside. So if you want to just see minimal kit, it's the clothes you're wearing and an extra pair of socks, usually about 3. I can't think of anything outside like, unless I had a bag of like food of some kind, like a bag of flour, I'd make sure that was in there. So all this stuff is soft, right? But let's say I also wanted to carry some uncomfortable stuff.
Big one.
Great, oh boy. Yeah. So I'll make sure I remember that that's the top. I like the heavy stuff up top, not banging against my butt all day. And I want my wood smoke book. I'm going to also pack that someplace in the middle. Okay. Go ahead and put that all the way down like that at that level and really make it straight and tight. Yeah, nice like that. Do the same thing here. Okay. Keep that flat so I know where my book is. This is where the flour is. We'll just go down about one more time. And we're going to have a little bit of extra to open up and run the whole thing into like an envelope. And sometimes it seems like it's a little bit fussy to make things look good and make them work tight. But after about 10 miles of hiking, you'll know if you're sloppy because your whole thing will just fall apart on you. And then try to figure out what's the soft side, because that's going to go to your back. tuck things in tight. If you can make an envelope that's pretty tight before you start wrapping it with your string, then you might succeed in having something where things don't fall out before the day's over. And we call this knot sometimes the smiley knot. So you've made an overhand loop. I don't know if this one's an overhand, but an overhand's really simple. It does the same purpose. It looks like that. So you make an overhand or a bowline at the end that's not going to come undone. So you have this thing to make a loop through. And this is actually just about exactly the length they give you. I think it's about 3 or 4 arm lengths. And you can either do 3 or 4 or 5 or however much string you have or however tight you can get. But you keep cranking it tight. And then you do the smiley knot. It has another name, but that's the face. You make a face. You pull the tongue through the face and shorten the tongue. And then bind the tongue by spinning that way. So you're not going to spin up because that leaves that part sticking up. So you want to go spin it down like that all the way over and then put the tongue through there and it binds it. And I can do it again, and it's easy to take apart. It's super easy to take apart.
Sorry guys, I lost a little bit of the footage, but I'm going to do my best to show you what you missed out of the middle. All the way around the pack, and then I take a little bit of a bend in the cordage right here and make like kind of a right angle with it. And I'll go underneath it, take the full length of my cordage through, and I'll snug that down like that, and I'll go down the pack. And I'll just keep repeating that until either I get to the bottom of the pack or I run out of cordage. So in this situation, I'm just going to do 3. I think 3 will be sufficient. Like that. Like so. I can go down the pack, over the top of it, or the bottom, whichever you deem this end. Make sure everything's tucked in nice and tight, like so. I can go over the end, like that, all the way the length over it. Back over the top. And once you've wrapped around the bottom and over the top of your package, you take that loop that you've created with that original smiley knot, and then you just do another one. You use that to wrench down on it, like that. Pinch it off there. Tuck a little under to make your smile face, like so. Pull your tag in through or the remainder of your cordage. And that secures it. Shorten up that tongue a little bit. Make your loop. Take that tongue through, and then that half hitch that you just did around it binds it down. And then you can just take the excess cordage, wrap it up kind of like this, sort of kind of like that, and just tuck it in here out of the way so it doesn't get all tangled up when you're trekking through the forest, climbing mountains and such. Now back to Dave.
Half bow there. Just like that, so it's got a tail that I can access. And tighten that right there onto that so I can undo that when I need to. Sometimes it's kind of rough on your bandanas because by the end of the day, those little slip knots don't slip so well because of all the weight you've been putting on them all day. But make sure there's enough of a tail. You've got. So that's one bandana system. You could use, I've used willow bark or anything else I could build a carrying system out of. But we'll let somebody put this on.
I'm the same.
Gabe likes
You
500
ready?
pound bags.
Come up through that, right? Okay.
Sounds like way after my own heart.
So it might be a little bit
like 70 plus
snug
pounds.
at first, but everything loosens up.
Wow.
And if
That
you're
feels a lot lighter than it does when you're just holding it.
tired of having all that weight in one spot, sometimes you can do this, or your partner can.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that you're,
Wow. That's crazy.
So everything in that system has more than one use, right? Everything, you're not carrying something that you carry things in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Let's try the belt system. That's just about, maybe that just might be it. Heck. This also creates a good system, and it does a lot of other things for my head, for my neck, and my waist, and it also.
And style.
Oh, it's just beautiful, right? A big, wide. I think it's Métis. Like it's the French Cree or Cree combination people that they got kicked out of Canada for being half-breeds during that revolution where only purebloods could have a seat in Parliament. And that's how my family got into the USA. They went to another French-speaking colony on my mama's side called Saint Louis. And the rest of their kin went south to Nalines, or the, what do you call that when the Arcadians went south? Acadian. The Cajuns, they became the Cajuns. So my kin became Cajuns, and we became guides for the westward movement. And all of us half-breed on that side, people could speak all the languages and row canoes and knew all the routes, and so we could be really good truckers of that day, either by land or by canoe. And so we kind of ended up in the USA because we were racially impure. It was that whole war that nobody talks about was a racial cleansing of Canada. That only pureblood natives and pureblood French were allowed to have any. And people don't remember that part of the story for some reason. Okay, so yeah, this is going to work. I'll scoot that out to the sides. I've never used one this fat and comfortable before. Might be a new policy. And see what happens. Who you want to be the same Vanna White? Try this out and tell everybody how wonderful it is. Is it working for you?
Yeah. Distributes the weight good, but I feel like I would want it a little bit more tighter. The other one.
So what you do then, if you want to adjust that, these bandanas have all sorts of applications.
Yeah, that's much better.
Now you can jump off a cliff and do all that cool stuff and not lose it. Okay?
Your back foot.